Hi guys, how are you? I hope you are following your lessons given in the videos. Today we are going to learn or read a beautiful story called Quality by John Galsworthy. I hope all of you know the meaning of quality. The moment you hear the word quality, something of high standard comes to your mind. It may be quality education, it may be quality life, quality clothes, quality food, or quality shoes. Anything that is very good is called quality life. So we are going to study the story Quality, and it's a very touching emotional story of a German shoemaker. This German shoemaker was settled in London and he used to make quality shoes. So his accent here and there, his words which have been quoted are exactly the same, the way he spoke. So you will have to get the sense, and let's first start reading the story. Before you read, just understand, can a shoemaker be called an artist? Yes, if he has the same skill and pride in his trade as any other artist, and the same respect for it too. Mr. Gessler, a German shoemaker settled in London, is a perfect artist. Read this story to see how he devotes his life to his art. It is true that making shoes is an art, because you must have seen many kinds of shoes. Some shoes fit you very well, while others don't. They start biting you from the very beginning and they keep troubling you till the end. Sometimes you are not comfortable in some shoes, but other times you just love your shoes. So making shoes is an art, and the person who makes shoes, or the shoemaker, is an artist, and he earns the same respect for making shoes as an artist for making some piece of art. This is the story of Mr. Gessler. He was, as I told you, he was a German shoemaker who was settled in London. He was a perfect artist. Now let's read the story and enjoy. Have fun with the story. I knew him from the days of my extreme youth, because he made my father's boots. He lived with his elder brother in his shop, which was in a small by street in a fashionable part of London. The author says that I knew this man from the days of my extreme youth, when I was very young. Why? Because the same shoemaker made his father's boots also. The author's father's boots were also made by this same shoemaker. He lived with his elder brother. He's talking about Mr. Gessler, the shoemaker. He lived with his elder brother in his shop, which was in a small by street. By street, some lane, side lane, in a fashionable part of London. So in some very fashionable part of London, in a small lane, this artist lived with his brother in his shop. The shop had a certain quiet distinction. Means there was no sign upon it other than the name of Jessler Brothers, and in the window a few pairs of boots. He made only what was ordered, and what he made never failed to fit. To make boots, such boots as he made, seemed to me then, and it still seems to me, mysterious and wonderful. So now let's go back to the paragraph. The shop had a certain quiet distinction. Distinction, difference. So this shop was extremely quiet. There was hardly any noise. Both the brothers used to work very quietly, and this shop had distinction, difference. And this difference was without, this also meant that it had a difference which was very apparent, obvious. Why? Because of the quality of the shoes made on this shop. There was no sign upon it other than the name of Jessler Brothers. There was one signboard, and the signboard only had the name of Jessler Brothers. And in the window, a few pairs of boots. Just a few pairs of boots were displayed in the window. That's it. He made only what was ordered, because he made shoes on order, and what he made never failed to fit, because the shoes he made were on order. Means he used to take the measurement of the person and then he used to make shoes. It was not possible for anyone to walk in and buy shoes. That is how this shop was different. To make boots, such boots as he made, the kind of boots he made, it seemed to me then, he is talking of his childhood, and even now, it seems to me mysterious and wonderful, something that has no answer. The author doesn't understand how he could make such beautiful, wonderful shoes which never failed to fit. Nobody else made such beautiful shoes. So, making shoes is an art. Jessler Brothers had that art. Their shop was distinct, it was different, because they made shoes on order, and the shoes fitted very well. Now let's go ahead, read the story further. I remember well my shy remarks one day while stretching out to him my youthful foot. Isn't it awfully hard to do, Mr. Jessler? And his answer, given with a sudden smile from out of the redness of his beard. It is an art. Now, I remember well my shy remarks. One day, while stretching out to him my youthful foot, that means when I was young, while stretching my foot forward to him to give measurement, I made a remark that, Mr. Jessler, isn't it awfully hard to do? Difficult to make shoes. And his answer, given with a sudden smile, suddenly he smiled out of his, red beard. He said, it is an art. Now, it is an art. This is German accent of it is an art. So, making shoes is an art, he said. Now, let's go ahead. It is an art, said with a German accent. It was not possible to go to him very often. His boots lasted terribly, having something beyond the temporary, some essence of boot stitched into them. So, the difficult, new word, lasted terribly, means lasted very long. Alright. So, wait. It was not possible to go to him very often. Why it was not possible? There was no need. Why it was not possible to go to him very often? Because there was no need. His boots lasted terribly. Whatever shoes he made, they lasted terribly. They lasted very long. And having something beyond the temporary. I mean, they were much, much better than some temporary shoes. Some essence of boot stitched into them. I mean, they were sturdy. They were very strong. They never got torn off. So there was something special about the shoes which Mr. Gessler made. So there was no need to go to him again and again. Why do we visit the shoe shops many times? Because the shoes we buy, either they get torn or they break, they get cracked, then we go to buy another shoes or we go for repair. But the kind of shoes he made, they were extremely good. Let's go ahead. One went in, not as into most shops, but restfully, as one enters a church and sitting on the single wooden chair waited. A guttural sound and the tip-tap of his slippers beating the narrow wooden stairs, and he would stand before one without coat, a little bent, in leather apron, with sleeves turned back, blinking as if awakened from some dream of boots. So, what is guttural? It is harsh and grating. Some harsh grating sound. Now, one went in not as into many shops. If anybody had to go to his shop, it was not a common thing as one walks into any shop. Because this shop was different, I told you. But when anybody went there, went restfully at leisure, with plenty of time, sufficient time, not in hurry. As one enters a church, when you go to a church, anybody goes to a church, one is at peace, sits there peacefully. Similarly, one entered his shop and sitting on the single wooden chair waited. There was single wooden chair and anybody who went there had to wait for long. A guttural sound, some harsh grating sound, and the tip-tap of his slippers beating the narrow wooden stairs. See, he wore slippers, and the tip-tap, the sound of his slippers, one had to hear on wooden stairs. You know, when you walk on wooden stairs or wooden floor, there is always a sound of tip-tap, right? So then he would come down from the first floor, climbing down the stairs, and the sound was heard, and then he would stand before one without coat. Without coat he would come, and a little bent. This man, Mr. Gessler, was a little bent, little old, little bent, in leather apron. He would be wearing leather apron because he would be working on his shoes, he would be making shoes. That is why he wore apron always, with sleeves turned back. The sleeves of his apron would be turned back, blinking. He would keep blinking, blinking his eyes as if awakened from some dream of boots. It seemed always as if he was in a dream of boots, or he was dreaming of boots, and he had to come out of that to meet somebody. Who is that somebody? Whenever the narrator went there, he found this man coming down the stairs and as if awakened from some dream. I hope it's clear now. And I would say, how do you do, Mr. Gessler? could you make me a pair of Russian leather boots? So I would ask him how he was and if he could make me a Russian leather boots. Without a word, he would leave me retiring whence he came or into the other portion of the shop, and I would continue to rest in the wooden chair, inhaling the incense of his trade. Soon he would come back, holding in his hand a piece of gold brown leather. With eyes fixed on it, he would remark, "What a beautiful piece." When I too had admired it, he would speak again, "When do you want them?" And I would answer, "Oh, as soon as you conveniently can." And he would say, tomorrow fortnight. Or if he were his elder brother, "I will ask my brother." So what is incense? Incense is the smell, incense of his trade. So without a word, he would leave me retiring whence he came. When I say, "Can you get me a Russian leather boot?" without speaking a word, he would go back from where he came, or into the other portion of the shop, or into the other part of the shop he would go, and I would continue to rest in the wooden chair. I would keep sitting in that wooden chair, inhaling the incense of his trade, smelling this incense of his trade, means that leather, inhaling the leather smell, because in a leather shop always there is a smell of leather. So I would keep inhaling that leather smell. Soon he would come back, holding in his hand a piece of gold brown leather. Then he would come back to me very soon with a piece of gold brown leather. With his eyes fixed on it, he would remark, and looking at that piece of leather, he would say, "What a beautiful piece." Again, this English is German accent. What a beautiful piece. When I too had admired, then when I also admired that, yes, it was beautiful, he would speak again. He would say again, "When do you want them? When do you want these shoes?" And I would answer, "Oh, as soon as you conveniently can." Conveniently, easily, with your convenience, as it is comfortable to you. So, and he would say, "Tomorrow fortnight," means 15 days from now, fortnight. Or if he were his elder brother, "I will ask my brother." If this person was not there, if it was in place of him, his brother was there, he would say, "I will ask my brother." Right? So then I would murmur, "Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Jessler." "Good morning," he would reply, still looking at the leather in his hand. And as I moved to the door, I would hear the tip-tap of his slippers going up the stairs to his dream of boots. So I would wish him good morning, and he too would reply, and then still looking at the leather in his hand. He would keep looking at the leather in his hand, and as I moved to the door, I would hear the tip-tap of his slippers, because the sound of his slippers going up the wooden stairs I would hear, and he would be back to his dream of boots. He would be again dreaming. Incense is the smell of leather compared to the smell of incense in a church, right? Now we go further. I cannot forget that day on which I had occasion to say to him, "Mr. Jessler, that last pair of boots creaked, So he remembers, the author remembers the day one day when he complained to him about one pair of shoes, and I had said, Mr. Jessler, the last pair of boots creaked, made sound. He looked at me for a time without replying, as if expecting me to withdraw or qualify the statement, and then said, shouldn't have creaked. So he looked at me for a time without replying, without saying anything, as if expecting me to withdraw or qualify the statement. Means he expected me to withdraw the statement, to say as if I had said something wrong which I should withdraw, take it back, or qualify the statement, or say again. Then he said, shouldn't have creaked. I think the pair of shoes shouldn't have creaked. It did, I'm afraid. I said, it did. You got them wet before they found themselves? You got them wet. According to him, you got them wet before they found themselves. Means you have taken them before they had dried up. They were wet. They were fresh. So you took them probably before that. I don't think so. I said, I don't think so. I wore them before they were dried up. At that he lowered his eyes, as if hunting for memory of those boots, and I felt sorry I had mentioned this grave thing. Send them back, he said. I'll look at them. So he lowered his eyes. He looked down as if hunting for memory, remembering, trying to recall those boots. And I felt sorry I had mentioned this grave thing. I had given this serious complaint. I felt sorry. Because his eyes were down, he was just remembering those shoes, and he said, send them back. I will look at them. I will see those boots, what problem they have. Right? Some boots, he continues, some shoes are bad from birth. I mean, this is his German accent. Some boots are bad from birth. Birth means from the starting. If I can do nothing with them, I mean, if I can make no change in them, I take them off your bill. If either I'll try to repair them, and if I'm not able to do anything, I'll take them off your bill. Means I will adjust them in your bill. Once I went absent-mindedly, once only, into his shop in a pair of boots bought in an emergency at some large firm. He took my order without showing me any leather, and I could feel his eyes penetrating the inferior covering of my foot. At last he said, those are not my boots. He says, once I went absent-mindedly, without thinking. I went into his shop in a pair of boots which I had bought in an emergency from some large firm, some shoe store, some big company shoe store. And he took my order without showing me any leather. That day he did not show me any leather. He took my order, and I could feel his eyes penetrating, looking at my shoes very seriously. And the shoes which I had, penetrating the inferior covering of my boot, as if he was able to do X-ray of my shoes which I was wearing. And those were certainly inferior. At last he said, those are not my boots. I haven't made them, what you are wearing. The tone was not one of anger nor of sorrow. not even of contempt, but there was in it something quiet that froze the blood. He put his hand down and pressed a finger on the place where the left boot was not quite comfortable. The tone was not of anger. When he was saying those are not my boots, he didn't sound angry, nor of sorrow. Neither he sounded sad, not even of contempt, not even disliking. But there was in it something quiet that froze the blood. In his voice there was some pain that froze the blood. I mean, the author, the narrator, felt he was freezing. His blood was freezing. He put his hand down. He put his hand down on the shoe and pressed a finger on the place. He pressed a finger on the place where the left boot was not quite comfortable. I mean, the author had some discomfort in the shoe, and surprisingly, he put his finger on that place and he said, here it hurts. Okay, so this is end of part 1. Fine. And now we will start part 2 in the next class. Till then you can read this story, whatever has been done so far, because in one class it will be very long for you, it will become boring. Read this story and then come for the next class, that is day after tomorrow. Bye then, enjoy reading.